Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 2 of Emitha Studio Talks. I am Jillian Risen. I am the ship driver of this crazy company that is Emitha. And we are, yeah, exactly right. We are here today talking to one of our audience, or one of our clients that we worked with for a wonderful artist by the name of Duvall. And she actually recently last year did a project with us, a wonderful album called Baroque Aria. So we're going to be here talking today about her artistry and finding your artistic path and how queerness has played a role in that for her. And so I'm going to welcome her right now. Welcome, Rocky! Hello.
We did it! We're live!
And hopefully everybody can hear us. Last time we had a little bit of an issue with that, but I think we're good this time.
No, we're probably good. I'm like eyeline. I'm looking at one camera, looking at the other camera. You can see my angles, darling.
Exactly. We've got Instagram and we've got our computers going at the same time. So last time we had some technical issues, but I think there's no reverb going on. There's none of that craziness. So it's perfect on StreamYard, one of our viewers says. So that's great. Awesome.
Yes,
so
great.
Welcome, Rocky. How are you, first of all?
I'm good. I'm really good. I'm really happy to be here. I just wrapped a film. I was producing an opera film this week and we wrapped on Wednesday, and I am tired because it turns out that the film world is like exhausting in a different kind of way. And that was new. So that was really fun. It was a good exhausted.
That's amazing. Because you do, one of the reasons I was so excited to talk to you today is because we have we work at Emitha. What's great is we work with artists in all different capacities, right? We do all this different kind of media, and then artists who are involved in all kinds of different things. And you are like a Renaissance woman, and you do all kinds of stuff. So let's name what those are really quick, so people understand what we're talking about.
Okay.
So mezzo soprano.
There's a lot. There's a lot. Well, yeah, and like the whole opera world is just it's very limited. It's very small. So like that's one very small lane that I live in as a mezzo. I, think of myself more as a sound artist, as a singer, rather than like I am a mezzo soprano, and the confines that gives you, which I know you're very familiar with in the opera world. So yes, I do a lot of classical singing. These days, my classical life is more Baroque focused and new music, which, people are always like, Baroque and new music. And I'm like, yeah, because it's like Baroque and new music, they're like the two things I love. I really like them both. So I'm singing in a new opera here in New York this spring. I've done a lot of really cool, like smaller company work here in New York, things that you're like, oh, it's just sort of on that cutting edge of what's next for opera. So that's sort of the lane in the opera world I like to live in. In the classical world, I definitely live more just in the Baroque world. I do, oratorio, choral pieces, that kind of stuff. Sure. And okay, so that's like one big chunk,
the right? Singing sound artist.
That's the singing. Yeah. Well, that's part of it, right?
Yeah.
Then I am sort of diving more into just being more of a performer, more of a performance artist. So I'm writing grants right now for my one-woman show / book, which I'm really excited about. That'll be coming up hopefully in the next year. I mean, I'm in the grant writing phase, so we're early days, but we've talked about this project. I'm super pumped about it.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Yes. I won't give anything away, but I remember.
It's okay. It's okay. It's the big picture is that it's sort of a culmination a lot of my life's work, which is singing, poetry, and keynote speaking, performing, being in front of an audience, being vulnerable, being authentically me, being authentically you, so that you give the audience space to be that for themselves. And so that's
which we're going to be talking about in depth over the course of this 30 minutes.
Yeah.
FYI.
Yeah, I'm pumped about that. Yeah, totally. Okay, wait, I'm taking up too much time talking about my lanes. Okay, we've got singing, we've got performing, and then I produce. I've most recently what I've been doing is producing. I've used to produce live shows, obviously, but now it's more film, which is really exciting. I didn't ever see myself as a film producer, but it's a lane I'm hoping to start, pick up the speed limit a little bit in that lane of my life, because I really like it. I really enjoy film as a medium. And I think there's a lot of opportunity for other industries to learn from the film industry when it comes to, hey, actually we all swim in this soup of entertainment. Let's actually entertain, because I think, I don't know, maybe it's just because I do so much avant-garde work, but you're like, okay, this is great and it's interesting and it's intellectual, but like, it's not entertaining, like let's yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that we're all about that. I know. I mean, that's like what Emitha is completely built on is totally. Cross breeding. I guess is the word that comes to my mind right now.
Yeah.
Different kinds of art while still honoring the classical tradition that we know of opera and classical music. But how it relates to film. We've seen a lot of that too. We've seen a lot of opera companies and artists in particular use film as a way during COVID to get their art out to other people. So I think that's really amazing.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
Cool.
Yeah. And then my other job is I'm a public speaking coach. So that's my corporate money-making job. But it's also, like I say, I really shouldn't qualify it like that, because it's really, really fun. And I really love it. And it's a cool, it's a wonderful complement to my performance life, because the things I learn in coaching, I take to the stage, and the things I learn on the stage, I take to coaching. So there's a lot of really wonderful synergy between those two worlds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you work with a lot of artists in the public speaking realm, or is it mostly people who are non-artists?
Yeah, it's mostly non-artists. Every now and again, like this morning, I actually just got home from working with a new client who's a singer, actor. He's an acting professor. Like he's very far along in his career. He's wonderful, wonderful gentleman, and he wants to give a TED Talk. So he reached out to me because I gave a TED Talk last year, and I've worked with, I think I'm up to 2 or 3 people I've coached to give their TED Talks. And so, it's super satisfying. It's like my favorite thing is helping people write TED Talks. It's different. It's really easy with an artist. I'll be really blunt with you. I'm like, he goes, oh, wait, the structure you're telling me, he's like, that's just a Shakespeare play. It's prologue, act 1, act 2, act 3, epilogue. And I was like,
amazing.
Yes. Correct.
Entertaining people, telling a story, getting that across. Well, I have to tell you, I'll be hitting you up about the whole TED Talk thing, because that's something I've always wanted to do. So that's for another day.
That's funny, because that's been in my back pocket of something I want to talk to you about for a long time. Because
amazing.
I was like, if there is anyone whose TED Talk I want to hear, it's Jillian Reason. So yeah.
Well, you're very kind. We won't bore people with that today. We'll do a separate ring.
We won't do a live coaching session. Maybe we should, though. That would be fun. I think people would enjoy that.
Right. And that could be very informative. So one of the reasons I like I said, I was so excited to talk to you is because you do so many different things. And with the experience that you have in all of these different realms, and having moved through very fluidly through these different mediums of performing and expressing and communicating and all that kind of stuff, there are, I'm sure, some things that you've realized are very universal when it comes to, finding your artistic voice or finding the ability to create and expressing who you are as a person in many, many different ways, which is really the goal of every artist, right? Whether you're a visual artist or a performing artist or you're a writer or whatever, or really every person, actually.
Every person, absolutely. I really don't think that it's exclusive to artists. I think with artists, we're more keenly aware of finding our purpose and finding our voice. But I think that purpose work and grounding work, doing the work, as they say in the sort of spiritual world, it benefits everybody, of course. And you and I both know that. I think artists, because we are on the pulse of beauty all the time, we're just more keenly aware of it. And because of that, the stakes are higher. Like, we have to find our purpose. We have to find our artistic voice, because if not, it can eat away at us. It can, you and I have both seen artists who can't find it, or they had it at one point in their career, and for whatever reason, they're away from it now, and they can't get it back, and it will eat you alive. And it's scary when that happens. And so I do a lot of work with fellow artists, not a lot. I do some work with fellow artists on just, let's find your voice. What is it? What is your artistic voice? And, you can call it brand strategy. You do a lot of wonderful brand strategy work with artists as well. And, but, the work I do is usually a little bit underneath the external manifestation of it, and more around, we need to get at the core first of who you are as an artist, because everything flows from that. So I when I did this work for myself, and this is kind of what I wanted to talk to you about today, is like, it took me till I was in my early 30s to be like, wait a minute, I don't have to be the diva. I don't have to be this, like, I'm an opera singer. When I come in the room, I can actually just be my goofy, silly, weird, kind of edgy self. And that once I kind of let go of my preconceived notions about who I was supposed to be as an artist, that gave me the space to be the artist who I am. And as part of that, it was a journey to say, okay, now that I know who I am as an artist, and I let go of what I thought I was supposed to be. And for me, that was letting go of being a soprano, first of all, and having like the ingenue type roles, which just never fit. I sound great in them, but I don't, no one ever cast me because they were like, it's not quite right. I didn't have the vibe. I walk into the room like a teenage boy, people, there's like, people's imaginations can't quite go there, and so it's true.
I love that.
So like part of it was just when I rebranded as a mezzo, part of it was just, I like those roles better. I mean, really, I'm a sufficient. Like, that's actually the lane I live in, but you can't really walk into, these days in America, at least, you can't really walk into an audition room as a sufficient. So, I rebranded as a mezzo. And when I did that, I also, from there, I said, okay, who do I want to be as an artist? And I said, I want to make beautiful sound. That was my purpose goal. My being, who I am on an essence level, is sound. And that's a big concept. People have a hard time with that one, but that's what resonates for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
And making big, beautiful, crunchy, messy, delicious, yummy, gorgeous sounds. That's what my life's work is. And the way that lands for somebody might be, we don't know. Maybe it's good, maybe it's bad, I don't know. But it's but I'm authentically me. And so as part of that, and this is what I think is, I wish I could like get on a pulpit and talk to young singers. Like, once you figure out that, everything flows from there. So from there, it was like, oh, well, if I'm gonna like do this, then, and I want to sing Carabino, and I'm going in for Noce, then I'm walking into the audition room with my hair pulled back, very minimal makeup. I've got a t-shirt and pants on and flat shoes, and I'm Carabino. And it's not that I'm in costume, but I give the panel just a hint of the vibe.
Right.
And when I started doing that, I started booking shows.
Absolutely.
And
yeah.
It was amazing what a big shift that was.
I mean, every mezzo knows.
Every mezzo knows. No, absolutely.
Oh yeah. And that kind of beautifully segues into something. I mean, when we were talking about topics that we wanted to talk to today, right? And we had a whole like list of things, and I was like, God, all of these things are related because they're all about, life and finding out who you are and being able to express yourself on a daily basis. And one of the things that we wanted to bring up too was queerness and how that affects you, how you use, I mean, not that you use it like a tool because it's just you, it's who you are, but how it may
appropriative. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. But how it influences or how it might express itself, or you express yourself in a daily basis through the other things that you do, and then how that translates to your art and stuff like that.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, my journey as a queer person is I think actually a lot more typical than people realize. And that is to say that I came out as queer when I was like 8 or 9 years old. I always knew that I was back then bi, now I think I would probably say pan, but like, I'm not super hung up on labels when it comes to my sexuality. That being said, I married a man. And I'm a fairly cisgendered woman, but I love gender play. I've always loved gender play since I was really, really young. And I shaved my head when I was 19. I wore.
No, you didn't really?
Yeah. I was really hot.
I came pretty close. I cut down to a pixie at one point, and
I think every cisgendered woman should go through the journey of knowing what it's like to access your femininity without your hair. Because we do not realize how much of our femininity is wrapped up in these luscious locks. And it is transformative, really. And I think every cisgendered woman should also stop shaving her legs for a year and really, and see what happens, what becomes available to you when you let go of that preconceived notion of what beauty is, what society has told you your beauty is. So I think that is more where my queerness lies, is more around like, you can be queer and be in a heterosexual relationship. You can be gender queer and use she, her pronouns. I think I don't quite have the words for this. And I probably should have like done my homework before we talked, but maybe someone who's watching can reach out to me and give me some advice. But I don't feel comfortable saying that I identify as two-spirit, because that feels appropriative to cultures who use two-spirit. But that is that's the closest to me. When I was a kid, when you do inner child work in therapy or whatever, you go in and you talk to your inner child and whatnot. And when I did that work, I've always had 2 kids in there. I've always had a boy and a girl, twins.
Interesting.
So ever since I remember the first inner child work I did, I was like 13, 14 years old. I didn't have any like preconceived notions of what it was supposed to look like, and I've always had like extremely strong female, male core and everything in between inside of me. So that's been really fun. And I think one thing that gave me a lot of freedom too is, as a queer person, I started to saying, okay, I really want to start doing drag. I want to be a drag king and go.
Yes, I wanted to talk to you about
masculinity. Yeah. It's so fun. It's like it's one of my favorite little just like I don't know, I'm just going to do that kind of
Yeah.
things that I've done in my
Well,
life.
and it all relates back. I mean, this like the overall. I feel like this talk is so as artists, right? And anybody who's watching who's an
Yeah.
artist will understand like just how therapeutic it is. We all talk about
Yeah.
this on a constant
Of
basis with our
course. Yeah.
teachers and our coaches,
Yeah.
or whoever your mentor is, if you're a visual artist or
Yeah.
whatever,
Yeah.
about like, well, you have to find your authentic self and you have to
Totally.
not feel constrained by this, that, and the other thing. And you
Yeah.
have to figure out what's important to you and really
Yeah.
express that. And it's always this like incredibly nebulous, like, well, duh, like, of
I know.
course I want to do that. Who doesn't want to do that? But like, I can't just do it. Like, how do you?
Yeah.
And I think what is important to hit on, and what I think what you're kind of getting at a little bit too, is that it's not just within your art. It's not just on the stage. It's not just in the audition room. It's not just in the studio.
Right.
It's trying to endeavor to do that every single day. And the essence of that is by not constraining yourself to what you think you should be based on what other people want you to be. And that's how you can really tap into that. And so I'm curious.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly. So I'm curious. So you have experience doing both of those things in a very like in a way that we can like really put side by side, which is playing pants roles and then performing in drag. Because one is very like constrained to certain things because it's within an opera and there are certain ways that in the music you have to behave. And then there's one that's probably a little bit more your take.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Right. So can you compare the two a little bit in your?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, the thing that actually got me into doing this was playing pants roles. I played, my first pants role, I have to say, was in high school. I think I was a sophomore or a junior in high school, and I was in an Agatha Christie play. Yeah. Oh. And I played the detective, and it was like the best time of my life. And I was so comfortable and at home in a male character. And I think somewhere in the back of my mind, I kind of stored that away, and I didn't have an opportunity to do it again for a long time, but I really enjoyed it, that kind of thing.
Like, I had the same experience. I was Peter Pan in high school, and I was like a little boy. Yes,
exactly. I'm in.
Amazing.
Well, it's very freeing. And I think, as a woman, particularly as a cisgendered woman, we don't even realize the layers that are on top of us all the time. And it's important for us to remember that those layers are there. And then what's accessible to us on stage in a pants role is actually accessible to us all the time. And like, if you don't want to grow out your chin hairs and your mustache, like, that's fine. You don't have to. I'm like, hey, guess what, everybody? Women have facial hair too, like... I don't know if you knew this.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you don't have to grow it out, but knowing that there is a world in which that's okay. And you can choose into that path. So anyway, I digress a little, but let's see, played a pants role like 3 or 4 years ago here in the city. And I did a ton of research about how to do my makeup. Because I was just really like, I want this to be good. I want to look like a man. I was playing Theseus. It was Teseo by Handel. And I was the lover, like the hero archetype. So I did all this research and I learned how to do like a very realistic beard using your own hair. You have to like cut up your own hair and basically glue it to your face. And that's what gives it like a really accurate stubble texture. So I do this show. I like have a blast with it. My lead is a friend of mine, my lead female. And, we just had so much chemistry on stage. It was really easy. And afterwards, her mom was like, oh, so who was that guy playing Teseo? That countertenor was so good. And she was like, that was a woman. And her mom was like, that was not a woman. No.
Best compliment ever.
No. And I was like, yes.
It's like when somebody who speaks French fluently and you were just in a French show comes up to you and they're like, oh,
it was so
your French is
perfect.
so good. And you're like, oh, Do you speak French?
Nailed
No,
it.
I don't, but my coach would be so happy.
Exactly. Same exact thing. Totally. And so from there, I was like, well, this is really fun. I kind of want to do this. So I've just done a couple like very small shows, still in the opera world, like doing a character, but still singing opera. So I'm in the development phase of my character, actually. And that's been really fun. I was just talking about it with my makeup artist earlier this week. And I don't know. I don't know where he's going yet, but I'm really excited about it.
What's his name?
Rocky.
Oh, right. Okay. Amazing.
But I think he might need like a different last. I mean, he definitely needs a different last name, but I don't know what that is yet. So, again,
not
if anyone has
Balboa,
suggestions,
probably.
Well, I was actually thinking Rocky Balboa would be really funny.
Oh my God. Love it.
I know, right?
I love a good pun. Play on words.
Me too. Also, I'm like, my sense of humor is like just mom jokes.
Yes.
So, it's
I know. That's another way we're gonna shed like the typical feminine whatever.
Totally.
Forget dad jokes. Let's bring mom jokes in. Moms can be fun too. And
I am
corny
all
and
for
cheesy.
moms can be fun.
But it's so funny that I love where this conversation is going, because I'm thinking back to I was first thinking back to like, all the pants rolls that I've done and how liberating I find them for many different reasons. But then also it's not just the pants rolls either. It's performing in general, putting on a costume and pretending being able that you are somebody else.
Exactly.
Right. Or if you're, I used to play the violin. I'm not a great instrumentalist, but really?
Yeah. It was like first chair in orchestra till, all the way through high school.
Amazing. Yeah. I just in high school, but it was like a good 10 years of training. Right. So I got pretty good at it, but I also felt that feeling a little bit when I was behind the violin, or you can feel sometimes when you're in the studio painting or creating, or when I'm behind my camera, of not being concerned about this.
Right. You're in flow.
But just exactly. You're in flow and expressing. And for a lot of opera singers, that happens most tangibly when they're in a costume and they're pretending to be somebody else.
Right. Yeah.
And they don't feel restrained by who they have to be on a daily basis.
Supposed to be. Yeah.
Exactly. And that is so addictive. And I think the fact that it's so addictive clearly is indicative of everybody needs that in
right. And we're getting at truth here. You get when you are creating beauty, you find essential truths. You find you find connection points to something greater than yourself. And I think that's what being in flow is. And for me as an artist, I think part of the reason that I haven't just said I'm going to plant in the opera world and this is my end all be all is that I find it takes so long to get to flow in the world, because sometimes you get it in rehearsal, sometimes you get it in the practice room, but you're absolutely right. It's really not until you're on stage in the role with the character, with the other actors, with the orchestra, it's like, and that moment is so fleeting. And I'm so addicted to that. I'm so completely addicted to that feeling. I'm like, it's not enough. But I love the variety. I think you and I we both are such multifaceted artists, and I am multifaceted partly because I love that that feedback loop of getting the flow, but it's also like I just you need variety in your week. I don't know. For me, it's like I love having lots of different things that I'm sort of putting little energy into, and then they all kind of come to a head and it flows down, and then it comes up again and it flows. And I don't know. For me, that cycle it works really well for me. And of course, having a diverse portfolio of jobs just means that I have employment. It's steady employment, which I think as an artist is like you kind of can't deny that. Right? It's really important.
So segueing to one of the other last topics that we wanted to talk about was, so you go through the work of trying to find this artistic self for yourself and how you can authentically express. And most of the time we kind of see how we can channel that through one type of artistry and really perfect that. And you and I were just talking about how we do multi things. But so how have you found challenges, when you kind of have this idea of I'm going to train in this and I'm going to do this and my career goals are this and they're going to move in this direction, and then all of a sudden I mean, we both know this very well. Things take a weird turn. Everybody knows this
They
now
take
because
a
of
weird
COVID. I
turn.
mean,
All
they
of a
take a
sudden
weird
you're
turn, and
pregnant.
all of a sudden you're pregnant.
That's me.
Your COVID happens.
Yeah,
Your
exactly.
your partner dies, or I mean, we're getting like
Yeah.
really dark
No,
here, but
no,
like
but
all
we
kinds
don't
of things
know.
could happen.
Anything can happen. Yeah.
Or you
Yeah,
just
yeah,
all of a
yeah.
sudden find out that you're like a really great whatever, and somebody offers you a job and you had no idea. So
Yeah.
how do you handle keeping that authentic self and that authentic voice when things like get completely turned on their head and they don't pan out the way, I mean, I know my life is very different today than I thought it was going
Yeah.
to be 4
Oh, me
years ago.
too. Definitely. Yeah. I mean, that's a good question. Like, how do you keep the faith almost? Like, how do you keep is that your question? Like, how do you stay in
Yeah,
artistic
or like
integrity?
how do you adjust, like
Oh, yeah.
something is happening and you've worked really hard to get this like authentic ingenuity, and part of that is tied up in what we do, right? Like I used to
Yeah.
feel like, oh, I'm a singer, and then the day that I
Mhm.
decided to take myself off management, the day I became
Yeah.
a mom, or the day
Yeah.
that I became a student again and went back, got my doctorate, like those are all
Yeah.
like things I felt at least that like my identity was shifting
Yeah.
and like going back and forth and back and forth. And then I was like, well,
Yeah.
I don't know how to be me anymore because I don't know who I am anymore
'Cause I'm
because I'm
doing
doing
too
all
many
these things I
things or
couldn't
all these
imagine.
things. Yeah. I mean, for me, it's been more around, I give myself time limits. I'm a little strict with myself. And I say, you get to be jealous for a certain amount of time. You get
Cool.
to be sad that you didn't get this role from that audition that you were really excited about, that you prepared for months for. You get to be sad for the weekend. And you can have one extra glass of wine to wallow in that. Or some
I
ice
love
cream, or
that.
like whatever it is that
Yeah.
I want in that moment. And I
Yeah.
coddle that little child inside of me who's sad, and I'm like, it's okay, let's be sad. And I think that's been really good, is not saying like, rather than focusing on the past or the future and saying, well, the next thing is going to come. That's what people always want to say to you. And it's like, is it? I don't know. A meteor could hit the earth. Like, maybe it comes, maybe
Yeah.
it doesn't come, but I know in every moment that I'm in my artistic integrity, and my artistic integrity is not everybody's cup of tea. And that's a big shift, I think, as an artist, is saying, I'm going to make art that I feel really confident in. And
Mhm.
not everyone's going to like it, and that's okay. And the people who do like it are really going to resonate with it. And this show,
Right.
this one woman show that I'm, putting together, that hopefully there's, the element of it that you and I will collaborate on. This show, just, for those who are watching, is a combination of spoken word poetry, which that's also a life I lived. I was an internationally touring spoken word artist. So, NBD. So that was a lane I was in for a really long time, and I could really put to bed.
No, but let me just throw that in there
Totally.
casually.
But that was something that I was really into for a while and was doing at a very high level. And when I had my kids, I had my first son when I was 25, and when I had Raphael, I was just like, I'm gonna put that on pause. And I really didn't do anything with poetry for a long time. Really focused on singing, on developing my skills as a classical singer. And I've, worked so hard on my technique, and there's always more work to be done. And of course, and I still continue to learn. So this show is a combination of classical singing, spoken word poetry, and then my work as a speaker, as a keynote speaker. And that's the through line, is
Yeah.
sort of this idea of TED Talk. So I've been saying it's one part TED Talk, one part opera arias concert, and one part spoken word show. And then it has, really beautiful visuals and gorgeous backtracks that are going to be part of it. And it'll be, a beautifully produced piece of art that explores the concept of sound.
Yeah.
That's the through line through it all. But it's fun, it's also like a fun, entertaining show. So that, for me, like, this is by far the biggest artistic endeavor I've ever done, outside of the album, which we did together. That was, at the time,
Right.
that was like, I really thought that was going to be a peak for me. And I think I would encourage people to, and where I think this is sort of, I'm in a very roundabout way answering your question, is you don't know what the next peak is going to be. Producing my own album, that was a big peak for me. And now I'm like producing a one-woman show. Oh my God.
Hey.
Producing a film with 6-figure budget. That was a big one. Like, there's a lot of stuff that you don't know where your peaks are going to be as an artist. And
Right.
I think the way that you find them is by having an authentic voice and being rock solid in your core purpose, rock solid in what you do as an artist, and knowing without a shadow of a doubt what you do well, and knowing what you can fake. You know?
Yeah. Well, also, I mean, one thing that was like a business thing that I learned when I have no formal training in business of any kind, and here I am running this company, which is
running like, you know,
hysterical.
kind of the most exciting up and coming label in the classical music world. No big deal.
So I listened to a lot of podcasts is how I do. But one of the pieces of advice that I think was really essential for me that I wish somebody had told me when I was an artist. I mean, I still am an artist, but when I was physically singing on stage, was that it's just as important to know what you're really good at and what you're really passionate about as it is important to know what you're not good at and what you're not passionate about, because you can't be good at everything and you can't be passionate about everything, because then it's like the whole like jack of all trades, master of none thing, which I think makes sense to a certain extent, but as we know, we all do many things. I don't either. But like, for instance, the example they used was, you know, like Walmart versus Williams-Sonoma. Walmart is really good at a couple of things, the prices and the whatever, but they're not so good at things that we all know. But Williams-Sonoma is like really good at quality customer service, but they don't have the best prices and they don't have the whatever. So as an artist, kind of figuring out, these are the things I'm really passionate about. For you, it's your sound. For me, it was always the acting, how I looked on stage, like with my body, how I physically presented.
And that's why you're a great brand specialist for people. You know, it's why you're so good at the visual side of things.
The visual part of it. And for me, the sound was always like, I want it to be good. I have a certain level, but there's a certain amount that I'm willing to whatever for the visual part of it. And some people are the opposite, but knowing what that is and being okay with that.
Exactly. And like, I hate PR. I don't like marketing. I'm really good at it. I'm actually really good at it because I understand the concepts behind it and I understand audience analysis and like all that kind of stuff. And I just simply don't like it. And I got to a point in my career where I'm doing enough different types of work that I have a little bit of fat in the system and I just pay someone to do it for me. And like, if anybody out there is thinking, what's the dream? I can tell you, this is the dream, is to have enough fat in the system that you can just pay someone else to do the shit that you don't like to do. And oh, sorry, I don't know if I'm allowed to cuss. And you know, like
that is why we exist.
I know. And I really genuinely believe that. And I also really think like, we spend so much money as classical singers on our coaches and our voice teachers, so much money. And a big learning for me was like, hold on, I'm a good student. So I'm going to go to that lesson. I'm going to turn on my recorder. I'm going to take copious notes and I'm going to go back and I can get learning. I can milk the learning from that lesson for a full month. I don't need monthly lessons. The savings then, 1 week, I'm going to go to my coach. Same thing with that. Record it, get the learning for a whole month from that. Then the 2 weeks where I would have budgeted for voice lessons, weekly voice lessons, for example, 1 week I go and I do a consultation with a makeup artist. 1 week I spend some money, you know, right now I hired a grant writer. I was like, I don't really have time or energy to do grant writing. What's your hourly? You know, she's amazing. She's so great. She's really doing a ton of work. It's like that money can go towards strategic other things. And I think that's where you and I both as artists who think of ourselves as businesses, but are still true to the art. And that I think is a hard line for a lot of people. So that's a whole other talk, I think. But
oh my gosh, I can talk about that for hours.
Days.
In fact, I have talked about that for hours to poor students who were like, did not sign up for that.
Totally.
Subject to that rant. Well, this is all really great. And I'm so, I mean, I don't know if anybody people are watching, so I know that people are entertained and thoughtful about what we're saying, but if nothing else, it's just so great to talk to artists, especially like I get to work with you on your album and stuff, but then it's like, we kind of say like, okay, goodbye. We have like things to do and we don't like check in with people very much. And it's so nice to be able to sit down and like, just casually chat like this about really important stuff and really versatile applicable things for everybody. And so so what do you have coming? So you've got this film that you're producing, and when is
children's
that, like,
opera film.
when is it wrapping up? When can we see it? Do we have a timeline?
Yeah, this one most people will not be able to see. It's actually for schools. This is a film for schools. It's a project.
Great.
Yeah, it's really exciting. It's called Playground Opera. It's a project with Opera on Tap New York, is the producer on this one. And we designed a film that schools can use. So they buy a package from us, and then we give them custom films with their students in it. Yeah, it's really cool. And it's been very successful. I produced the beta version last year as well. And we've had tremendous results. We've been in front of hundreds. We've had hundreds of kids go through the program already, and we have a lot of repeat customers. So, there's no greater compliment than someone saying, "When's the next one coming out? We can't wait to do this again with our students." Yes. So that's a huge, huge honor. So there's that. I have, I'm doing a show with Fresh Squeezed Opera here in New York City in the spring. What else am I doing? I feel like I have more stuff. Singing stuff, that's kind of it. I'm producing my own things. Like I'm grant writing.
That's amazing. It's like taking role. That is like the one thing that I want everybody to be able to do is like feel like they have the opportunity and the wherewithal and the autonomy to be able to just like, I'm going to make something happen. And even if like screw COVID, I'm going to make my own opportunities and my own art and all that. And I think it's
absolutely.
So refreshing to hear about people doing it.
It really is. And it's, I would love to see more people saying, wait a minute, I actually do have a one-woman show that I want to put on, or I just want to put on, I talked with an amazing mezzo on Wednesday, and who's our lead in this opera. And she was like, oh yeah, I'm producing a recital in the spring. Yes. Just, what's your budget? What, like realistically, what could you put in? $50. Great. We're going to grassroots the pants off this thing. You can do that. We're going to put it in a church basement. You're going to find a friend who can do it. You're going to do it in your friend's living room. You're going to pay the pianist in dinner. You can do that. My budget's $1,500. Awesome. We're going to hire a videographer so that you can use these. We're going to invite people. We're going to sell tickets. Like there are so many ways to think of your art in a slightly more expansive way. And I think like if we leave it on a button, that's the button, is like find ways to create your own opportunities, and Anthony Roth Costanza is my hero in this way. Anthony Roth Costanza, the countertenor, sung at the Met. He's absolutely incredible. And, super just incredibly confident in who he is as a performer. And he said, I heard a talk with him, and he said, I make my art over here. And I've always made my art over here. And I'm good at it. I'm technically very good, but I do my own thing. And what has happened is that the industry goes, oh, wow, that's really cool. And it's hard. It's hard to get the industry to go like this. But I promise you, if you stay true to who you are and you stay true to your technique and your talent and your skill, we're not saying like produce bad art, but produce some good art on your own. You own. And this has been my experience. I know it's been your experience too. The industry turns and they go, oh my God, that's so exciting. I can't wait to see what you're doing with that. And that to me is like, that's when it's like, yeah, baby.
And we've seen that a lot the past 2 years, because they've had forced to look somewhere else because there's been nothing here to look at because nobody's been performing.
Exactly.
It's so liberating. It's so exciting. I'm so happy we got to talk to you.
I know, me
could
too.
Talk to you for like 7 hours about stuff.
I know.
We should like have coffee.
I might like book an afternoon of your time when you're in New York, and then actually secretly just like take you on a walk in Central Park.
We have a date. It's a date. I love that.
We just need some
time.
Thank
you so much. We do. So thank you for everybody who watched.
Yes.
Definitely technically a much more successful interview. We had no technical problems.
We did it.
Our next episode is going to be on the 28th of February, the very last day of the month at 3 p.m. We're going to be talking to performing artist and the founder of the Omni Arts Foundation, Amanda Austin. We're going to be asking the question, WTF are NFTs? Do you know what NFTs are?
Oh, I do. I've actually been looking into NFTs. I might be turning a show that we produced a bunch of years ago into NFTs.
Because
so yeah.
I kind of know what NFTs are. And as a tech person, I read a lot about NFTs and I still have very many questions. So she's going to talk to us and we're going to have a question session on that as well. So if you
Awesome.
have any questions, you can join in and we'll see you all here.
Yes.
Thank you so
Amazing.
much. It was so
It's my
sweet and
pleasure. Thank
wonderful
you
to
for
see
having
you.
me. It's
And
always so nice to chat with you.
yes. All right. Everybody have a wonderful rest of the day. Thanks for tuning in and we will all see you on the 28th. Bye.
Bye.